Alrighty, today we're going to be looking at the break-even price of shares and looking at how we actually calculate the point at which they get to a stage increasing in value that will allow us to sell them so we don't make a loss. Now, there is a whole stack of reasons for doing this, and it helps us work out how far the shares have got to progress upwards to cover those brokerage and GST calculations. And it's just covering our costs. It's not showing us how to make a massive profit. It's just telling us when we're going to cover our costs. It's very helpful in trading decisions. So if you're going to be buying some shares and make out you've got some shares and you've bought them and they've started here and they've gone up a bit and they've gone down a bit and then they've gone up a bit more down and then up a bit higher, then down like this. The break-even price basically gives us a value at where they've got to get to, like that, when we can sell them. And that gives us a good indicator of when we could sell them. We could sell them here or we could sell them here. Okay, so it's a really nice little thing. The other thing that they help us do is to create trading margins. Now, a trading margin works kind of like this. You might say, okay, I'm going to let my shares increase by 5%. I'm happy. I actually really would like a 5% increase in my shares. That's cool. Mind you, if they drop by, say, 2% from that break-even price, then I want to kind of get out of there. So what you're doing is it's giving yourself some indicators of when to trade. So as you can see from our little graph here, which is just made up, of course, we've got the share price going up, down, and then suddenly it gets to here, which could be a good time to sell them because we've made our 5%. However, if you're trading within margins, you would have got rid of them there because you're willing to take a 2% loss, but you really want to make a 5% gain. Anything above that, so this little bit here when it's going higher and higher, you don't care about because you're just operating within those margins. But how do you actually do it? So let's have a look at the steps involved in actually doing this kind of thing when we're actually working out the break-even price of our shares. There are 5 steps, and if you kind of follow them through, they're really easy. First step you do is to buy the shares, which you've done before. Second step is to add on the fees involved in buying them. Okay, so when you buy them you buy them and you pay for your brokerage and your GST. When you sell them, you've got to pay brokerage and GST again. So you've actually got to add the fees on a second time. You divide this number by the number of the shares that you purchase. And then you might need to round up if you need to. Sell the shares at the new price, and the last thing is to check whether actually you've made a money or not. So you look at the price that you sold them for and compare them to the price that you bought them for. That's really important because sometimes you just go through this process, put down an answer, and you're not there. Okay, so let's have a look at how we do it with an example, and you'll see these 5 steps working out. There's a couple of other ways to do it, which we'll talk about maybe in another screencast, but this time we'll just look at these ones. So let's have a look at a standard, typical break-even type of question that you'll get. You buy 3,400 KMB shares for $8.77. Okay, so they're $8.77, and you want to work out the break-even price, and you've got a 2% brokerage and a 10% GST. So our first step is to purchase the shares, and you've done this before. You get your consideration, brokerage, and GST. So you get them and you work them out, and you'll find out that when you times it together, you get 29,818. You take that across, that goes into your brokerage. Then from there you find your GST, and then you add the whole lot together. And when you add them together, you'll find out how much it costs you to buy these shares. And this is the price that you need to be able to cover when you sell them. So when you add them, you'll get $30,474.00, which is wonderful. So that means when you sell them, you've got to get at least that much money. Okay. Now step 2. Step 2 comes into the like this. Step 2 is then what we do is we then sell them. We then add our fees. So what we're doing in adding our fees, this is our brokerage from the first question. This is our GST from the first bit, and we add them on to the price that we got when we sold them. Okay, so you add on your brokerage because you have to pay that again. You add on your GST because you have to pay that again. So theoretically, this price here, this $31,030, is how much we've got to sell those shares for to cover our fees and everything, and that's our break even. But that just gives us our fees. Okay, that just gives us the amount of money we've got to get at the end. It doesn't actually give us what our price is. So what we do is we then grab that number and we divide it by the number of shares that we've got. Because we now know that we have to raise this much more money, and that's the number of shares we got. So if we divide the two out, that'll give us how much money we've got to have, or how much we have to sell each share for to cover our costs. So that gives us, if you do it that in the calculator, you get 915, then you get 59. Okay, so you get a couple of decimal places there. You need to round up here. Okay, so if you've got a decimal place there, round up to the next full cent. So we get 9.16 because when your share price goes up, your brokerage is going to be slightly higher and your GST will be slightly higher. So if you round up at this stage here, you've got a better chance of breaking even. Okay, because those fees and charges will increase, but we haven't taken that into account with our calculations. So that's the third step. That's doing that dividing bit. So that means that what we think our break-even price is, or what price our shares have to get to, have to be $9.16. So now let's go to the last step. And this is when we sell them. So we grab the $9.16 and we work out how much we would get from selling them. So you do the same thing: consideration, brokerage, and GST. You've done this before, and you get $31,144. This is your brokerage, and this is your GST. Now you've got to subtract them. Remember, subtracting them because you are selling, and that becomes our wonderful price that we get from selling our shares. Okay, so don't write that as your answer. You might go, yep, that's our break-even price. $9.16 is what we get. Away we go. No, now you've got to check to see whether you actually break even, because remember that you don't know if you have. So let's have a look at how that works. We sold them for $30,458. We bought them for $30,474. So if we have a look at this, you'll notice that you don't break even, because this number here is actually bigger than your selling price. Your buying price is bigger than your selling price. So there's a loss. Okay, so you've got to do something about this. So what we can do is we can say, okay, if we have 1 more cent, on our price, instead of $9.16, if it's $9.17, how much more money we'll get? So we'd get about another $34. And how did I work that out? Well, you've got 3,400 shares. Another cent each is going to give you $34. 3,400 times by 0.01, because it's 1 cent, gives me $34. So if I add that $34 onto this price here, onto our selling price, we'll get $30,492. When we get $30,492, that is higher than the price we bought them at. Okay, we've added on that $34, which we'll get from selling, adding an extra cent on, and therefore we get above the price that we bought them for. So therefore our break-even price is going to be, instead of $9.16, it'll be $9.17. Okay, now this is just a rough check. You don't have to go through and recheck it again, because $34 puts you way above that and takes into account that your prices have gone up, your GST will go up a bit, and your brokerage will go up a bit. So then you'll need to quote that your break-even price is $9.17. So that's the price you need to get to just to cover your costs and walk away without any debt. Excellent.